Welcome, everybody, to another wonderful episode of Ministering Over Fostering. I think these have become our favorite thing to do, and we're so excited for the guest speaker that we have here today. So I am actually going to give this over to Lakeisha. She's going to walk us through, and then we will hear from our guest that's here today. Go ahead.
Yay. All right. So we are so excited to have Amanda today from FemPower Den. Hi, Amanda. How are you?
Hi.
Good. Good. Thank you for allowing us to interview you today. We had the pleasure of you interviewing us in the past, so now it's our turn. I want you to just start off by telling us a little bit about yourself and your experience.
So I'm Amanda. I own the FemPower Den. It's a women's networking center, which by the time we probably hear this podcast is actually going mobile. I don't know if you guys seen my post or not. The space itself, I've had the space for a little over a year, and the vision is just growing. As you know, visions grow with SNL. You guys have experienced that too. So the space is going mobile for a while, not forever, just to kind of build it up. And what it is honestly, it's turned into like a woman community in a sense. I do host women, empowerment events there and everything, and people were allowed to rent it out and use it for their space. But what the whole mission of it was to build a community of women, not just that are entrepreneurs or business owners, but that are just looking for a safe place where they can just, be them, have a place to escape. If they are entrepreneurs and business owners, connect, learn from each other. So that's that. I also do marketing and events for my 9-to-5. I still do both. I'm one of those people that work for 9-to-5, but also own a business at the same time. So it's really fun.
And let's just go back to how you stated you created a space for women. It's not just you created a space for women, like you actually empower women. And I just want to say, from me and Myra's perspective on working with you, just thank you, because we've made so many connections through your workshops. We felt encouraged just being in the space along with other women. So what you are doing, it is a ministry. It is empowering to women within your community. So thank you for even starting that.
It's funny for me, like seeing it. I don't know if I feel, not that I don't feel that. I don't want to say that and people be like, what do you mean you don't feel it? But I guess because, I'm the one like putting together the events. Yeah, I'm there like experiencing them too. And a lot of times I do also leave like very like motivated, like, oh, Maddie, you've been slacking, you need to get back on track with stuff or whatever. But when I hear it from other people, and then when I see like when I seen you guys post when you got with the designer, I was like, oh my gosh, I know they met through the event, or just seeing other people post like they're working with somebody that they met through the event. I'm like, okay, it's really doing what it's meant to do, and it's like to connect. Like, if I'm just a hub for people to connect to find what they need for their business, that's perfect.
Not more than just a connection. I think that it really is a space where women, because we do struggle a little bit more in just the day-to-day, right? When it comes to business owning, when it comes to other things, women, and then not just women, but minority women. And I do have that background, and so we do experience some more challenges probably than, others may. And so I think when we come and we have this very raw and transparent space where we can share some of those challenges with each other, we can motivate each other. Just so you know, we're probably going to be having Dr. Janelle pretty soon as well. And
I love it. Okay.
Yeah. And so it's just such a, I think you show up to these events and then you leave feeling like, okay, if they've gone through these challenges too, I can do it too. And it's going to be hard and it's not going to be easy, but it's going to be okay. And it's more than just connection, Mandy. And we're just so grateful for you having this vision in the first place. I think it has done what it's meant to do. And I'm so glad that it's getting bigger, because we can imagine what you're going to do with wherever you go.
Yeah. A lot of times when you're out in the community, it's almost like tainted to just ask somebody like, how'd you get started? What did you do? But again, you created this safe space to, just allow people to talk and talk about like how they started, why they started, what challenges they experienced. So
that was like what you said right there, asking someone. I mean, that goes back to just like my sociology background. I actually wrote like a whole paper on this, but this whole thing of women in general, of asking simple down, like, so I really like your lipstick. And I'm like, hey, what color is your lipstick? I use this example a lot when I talk about this. And they're just like, oh, I forgot. Because they don't want to share.
Yes.
And that goes into a lot of things that could be a whole nother podcast. But when it comes to business, it's kind of, I've talked to a lot of women that have encountered that. They're like, we're not asking because we want to copy you, but we just kind of want to know, like, where did you find this info? Or, even the simple, I have a lot of girls that come to me that don't know, like, where to start as far as, like, the bank accounts. Do they need a business license yet? Do they need to go get, like, their actual, like, LLC or DBA to open a bank account? Like, they don't know none of that. And I'm like, okay, look, I'm no expert. I did it through the way I did it, but maybe you could talk to this girl who I know who, works at a credit union that focuses on small business. And so they go and talk to her, because I'm like, don't ask me about her finances. But I know people who you can talk to that help for small businesses.
Like you stated, it's not a competition. Everybody has their own unique path. And even if it is the same path that you've chosen, you're still going to do it in a different way.
I think it also has a little bit to do with insecurity too, though, because, Lakeisha and I have had these conversations before where you meet certain people that you feel very comfortable with and you're like, okay, this person is genuine. They're there for me. They're supporting me. Maybe I can ask more questions here. But then you may meet somebody who you're like, I'm not sure if they're for me. I'm not sure what the situation is. So I'm just going to pretend that I have it all together, even if I don't. And you do get a little bit of that insecurity. So I do think that comes from that too. I just don't know who's going to be genuine for me, who's going to support me, and who I can or cannot ask. But when you come into your space, we just knew everyone there was willing to hear it. And so it's just a space where you can do that, because insecurity, fear, all of the hardships that it took me to get to this, and then I have to share it with someone else. Yeah. A lot to that, I'm sure.
Definitely.
So going into your journey, tell us a little bit about how did you end up becoming an entrepreneur? What led you there?
I don't even know. It's funny because I was looking at the questions, like, you always send over like general questions for this. I'm like, dang, that question, I'm like, I don't even know. Like, not that I don't know, but I don't, in a sense. It just kind of happened. The background of me just getting to where I am in general is, not to get crazy into all of that, because we probably need a lot more time for that, but I was engaged with my ex-fiance, and we were together like 12, 13 years. And a year into our engagement, like right after I graduated from college, he decided he didn't want to get married anymore. And so it was a whole just rediscovering of myself. And I won't say I like found a new me. I think I just found the original me that I lost in that relationship. And I had always tried to put together like groups in my life, like groups, like women groups, like, support each other. And I don't think I really had a structure or knew what to do. And again, didn't know who to ask, like, that, have you done this before? Like, what do I need? Even just people owning businesses. I didn't really know that many at the time. And so just went on a journey of finding myself. And then I started a blog that was FemPower Daily. And then that turned into the BrunchTalks podcast. I'm like, where's the order here? And that's how I met a lot of a lot of people from the podcast, just reaching out to them on Instagram, like, hey, do you want to come on my podcast? I love what you do. And then from there, I was like, oh, I want to bring these women together. Like, how do I do this? Luckily, my boyfriend, he had a space of his own that he's run for years. So I could kind of like back on, or like ask him, like, how did you do this? How did you do this? So, at the time, he helped me out a lot with that. So I had people around me at that point that had already started businesses, ran businesses, so I could ask them. And then I was just like, maybe I need a space. Like, maybe I just need a space to do this. And kind of went in. I will say, even though I had resources around me, I'm a very stubborn person. So I did a lot of figuring out on my own, which took a lot longer than it should have, when I could have just literally called some people up and been like, how do I get my DBA? But instead I Googled. Nothing wrong with whichever route you want to go, but let me tell you, if you have resources around you, ladies that are listening, just use them. Cut out some months of waiting on how to do stuff. But yeah, from there started the space, and like you guys said, it just has continued to grow, and opportunities have come from having that, from being a business owner. I got published in a book recently, so that was pretty cool. I'm excited about where it's going, the vision for it, of where it's going in the future. So yeah, but it's a long journey. But what I also love about it is that I'm in my mid-30s already, and I didn't start it till my 30s. And a lot of people think like once you're in your 30s, like you should know where your career is. You should already be established, which that's great. That's great if you are. Honestly, that is good for you. But there's a lot of us that weren't. And even the chapter in the book that I was published is called "It's Never Too Late." I started in my 30s, so don't think just because you're 25 and you're not where you want to be, or you don't know like what your passion is at, you'll find it. It'll come at a time you probably least expect it when you realize that's what your passion is.
The fact that you are saying it's never too late. And I mean, you may start a career path and change. I mean, I'm 40 something, 42, and started agency when I was 41. So even if you are in a career path, it may change. It may take a whole different route. So there's nothing wrong with that. And we're going to have to hear more about this book too. You're going to spring that in there, you know?
A drop in there.
Yeah, just a little. So I know you said that you were big on always like hosting groups, getting women together. So would you say that's how your passion for helping women developed, or was that something at a very young age?
And it's funny because you know what? A lot of people know me as a very much introvert, not necessarily shy, but if you do catch me out in an event, a lot of times I'm just like the observer. Like I'm just sitting there and people always come up to me, "Oh my God, you're so bored. Oh, you don't like it. You're not having fun." I'm like, no, this is just me. Like I'm a people watcher. And yeah, of course, like one of my favorite artists comes on or something, then yeah, I'll go out and dance. But like that's just me. And a lot of people, like, they don't think, they're like, "Oh, I never would have put you as one that likes to, you know, go to these events and go to networking and blah 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 blah." And I'm like, I don't know, like, but yeah, ever since I was young, I've kind of always wanted to be like, "Oh, let's have like a little get together here, let's do this here." And then what I also know the Den came from is the fact that right out of high school, I'm gonna throw in another bomb on you guys, I had a clothing line out of high school, and at that time, I'm gonna age myself right now, but this was before most social media. There was no Instagram, no Facebook, none of that.
MySpace.
yeah, there was MySpace. But you couldn't. People didn't know how to. I don't think anybody used that to like market. Really, like I don't think how they do Facebook now. Like it wasn't like that. So our clothing line was actually pretty good. Like we did a couple of fashion shows in LA, but there was nowhere for me to host like, "Oh, we're dropping a new line," without paying like thousands of dollars out of space. Or to market, you actually had to buy ads in like a magazine. And me and my partner at the time were like 18, 19, maybe 20, even by the time we were like finished with it. You have thousands of dollars to throw into that. And I'm not taking out a loan. Like I don't know crap about how that's going to come back at you. So it didn't work. But ever since that age, I've always been like, man, if there was only a space for like when you're younger, or not even younger, when you're just starting and you don't have thousands of dollars to put into a space, but you know, if you could just have one, maybe a couple hundred or whatever it is that it costs, you know, and just to help you get off the ground. Like, why isn't there a space, especially local? Like, sure, maybe you might find one in LA, but I'm sorry guys, I don't like parking in LA. That's not me. So it's just that was where the Den, like the vision really came, is I didn't have this when I was younger. This is my hometown. I want to bring it here. Like if I could stay here. So that was part of it too.
I think of when you said you don't like parking in LA. Yeah, and then think of the competition too. You know, you're young, you don't have really any avenues besides paying that high fee to even start. Because fun fact, I did go to fashion school for a little bit as well back in the day, and I got out of it because it was just the industry. It's all over the place, and then you realize the competition, and back then it was a lot of trunk shows. So again, you're competing with thousands of people in the same space, and if they don't have someone like you to bring these women together, it's really hard. So that sounds like it was a challenge for you too, as a woman and a minority. What are some other challenges would you say that you've experienced?
Definitely being taken serious. Remember that I was getting frustrated when I was looking for this space, and I don't know what it was, if I just encountered people that they thought I was younger than I look, which I mean that's a great thing, thank you. I guess because of that, they didn't want to take me serious. So I'm just a short little brown girl, like, don't want to take you serious. And I remember there was one time I went to go look at a space, and like the guy, I don't know, the guy was being really weird, like just not taking me serious at all. Didn't even like show up to open the door, pick up my phone call. Remember, I had called my boyfriend at the time, and you know, he's a successful black entrepreneur or whatever. And I don't think he believed me that this was happening. Sure enough, he called and showed up. It was a whole different story, and I'm just like,
wow,
what the heck? And I still don't think he like seen it, because to him he's like, she's acting normal. I don't know what you're talking about, Amanda. And I'm just, whatever. But I do remember that. I think it was the more being taken serious, and then even like going to open the bank account. The first person at the bank was this guy. I didn't know. Like I said, I did it the stubborn way and just walked in and was like, what do I need? How do I do this? And he kind of looked at me like I was dumb. And then when I went back the second time to talk to someone, that was a lady, and she was like, oh, what are you starting? And I told her, and I don't know if it was because of the idea of the den that she was all about it. She helped me out. But yeah, I felt like there was some, I won't say everybody, but there was some guys that I don't know what the reason for judgment was. Either I was a woman, didn't seem to know what I was talking about, which I didn't. I was looking for help. Or I was a little brown girl. Like, I don't know. It was one of them, but I did encounter that.
I think Lakeisha and I experienced a little bit of that, and that's why we're smiling too, because you know, Lakeisha and I, our character, we're very different in a lot of ways, but we're also very similar. And when we feel like we're trotting in an area that we don't have a lot of knowledge about, we tend to climb up a little bit. It happens naturally, and we've been working on that too, right? Because we're like, no, we need to be here, right? But we do tend to climb up a little bit because we're people that we know our work so well. We thrive in the work that we do. And so when we tread into spaces that we don't know too much about, it feels uncomfortable. It feels like there's things that I just don't know. And Lakeisha came in with a lot of experience about business owning. A lot of her family has that, but I have none of that. And I told Lakeisha, I joke around with her because I'm like, my family, right, they're Hispanic businesses. And so it's kind of like that type of business where I'll go and I'll fix your stuff and then you pay me in cash, right?
Make me some lunch and a beer.
Maybe it's a burrito or
some tequila, please.
I was telling Lakeisha, I was like, you don't have to go get licensed and this and that. Like, it's, you know, someone knows you're an electrician, someone knows you're a construction worker, and they're like, hey, come and fix this and so and so. And you know, I'm going to go spend that whole Saturday with them. They're going to feed me and I'm going to leave with some cash and I'm done. And so I was telling Lakeisha, at first I would joke around. I'm like, I have Mexican workers. Like, this isn't normal for me, right? Yeah. And so telling her, like, going through all of the steps of getting the contracts and getting the licenses and figuring out where you go, it felt like such an overwhelming thing in the beginning. But we were like, you know what, we have to go and ask the questions. And I think we found a lot of favor in some of the people that helped us, like at the bank. The lady that helped us at the bank, she was really, really sweet. And she was like, hey, you're missing this document and you just happen to come in on the day that this is the last day you can do it. She's like, go to this website and submit it. And we're like, what? And so we're like doing it on our phone. But she was just so incredibly helpful. And so I think along the way, what you said earlier is so right. If anyone is starting a business here, if you can ask the questions, don't be afraid to ask the questions, because someone may be willing to help you. And we need a community. We can't do this alone, right? And we deserve to be here. We're women, we're minority, but we deserve to also represent business owners. We have the right to do that.
Yes.
So thank you for sharing that. I'm like, it stood out so much because I was thinking back to our journey and I'm like, yeah, that happened to us.
Quite a few times. And what stands out to me is we were looking for a tax preparer. And that had to be the most challenging situation, because I just felt like we were consistently getting people that did not take us seriously. And of course, we knew what to ask, but that's not our field. You ask us about social work, we'll tell you anything, right? But it was just a whole new experience for us. And even with like my family, they have more retail experience. So it was completely different as far as an agency, as far as what questions to ask a CPA or, you know, anybody like that. Yeah, we got a lot of rejection or
intimidation.
A lot of,
I think we were intimidated a lot by CPAs. They were male CPAs when we were talking on the phone with them. And anytime Zakisha and I would hang up on the phone and we're like, are we even in the right place? Because we would be intimidated or almost made to feel like, you know, what we were trying to do, it was very far-fetched and we weren't going to be able to do it without thousands of dollars. And we're like, wait, like so many people have started somewhere, right? And there has to be somewhere to start. And so, yeah, intimidation for sure. We would hang up and look at each other like feeling so defeated, but we're like, no, we've got to find somebody else. And I think we did. We found someone that's incredible and has helped us all along the way, but it took a lot more research and a lot more of that challenge to pass that.
How I felt like we overcame that challenge. For myself, I had to constantly remind myself who I am. Like, why was this vision even placed, like, in my head?
Yeah.
And just think about all of the things that we accomplished already, and just knowing we would not have gotten this far if we weren't supposed to be here.
Yeah.
So in your experience, how did you feel like you overcame those challenges of people viewing you in this way?
I would say very similar. I think it was just remembering what the vision was. Like, okay, like, yeah, this might be upsetting, this might suck, this might, you know, this is reality. Like, people still are out here, are going to judge you like this, or not want to help you like this. And it's just like, okay, you can't, like, I always dwell on my emotions for a little bit because I have to. Like, if not, I'll end up having like an outburst and just start crying randomly. So I'm like, let's just cry about it right now. And then I'll be like, okay, then 4 to 5 minutes, however, 2 minutes, whatever it is that I need to cry about it for. And then, okay, let's move on. So I'm one of those people, always got made fun of, not made fun of that, but they're always like, you always cry. And I'm like, hey, I have to let it out. Otherwise, in about 3 days, I'm just going to be sitting at my desk crying for no reason. I need to let it out. And I'll be good. Give me 2 minutes. I'll be good. And I'll move on. But yeah, it's remembering, like, okay, what are you doing this for? Like, what are you doing this for? Come back to it. They say, just snap yourself out of it. Like, all right, go put your big girl hoops on and let's go.
I recently saw something too, and it was like, if something bothers you, like if somebody is saying something or coming off a certain way towards you, it's a good time to analyze and see why is that really affecting you. And that was empowering to me because I'm like, okay, yeah, like certain things shouldn't affect us, but it does, you know?
And it's like you said, you're there's probably some sort of subconscious inside of us that are like, don't belong here. Like, you know, like don't want to speak for you guys, but just something like you said, am I in the right place? Like, oh, maybe this is out of my league. Like, starting a business is scary. Like, don't let, a lot of people think it's just, oh, let's go start a business. It is scary. Like, but
yeah,
you have to remember, like, no, you do belong here. Like, it is right for you. But yeah, you got to look at yourself like, why do I keep thinking that I don't belong here? So that, yeah, it's a very good point.
If you look around, there's not a lot of, I don't want to say there's not a lot, but we're used to seeing women that are not minorities in these upper professional seats, right? Upper class professional seats. So it can be intimidating because I know for me as a young kid, you're used to seeing like a lot of these CEOs that are not African American or not Hispanic, not biracial. You see it a little bit more now, but I feel like, think of all these young little girls that are looking at us in these positions that we're at now. It's like they see examples now of different people that look closer to them, just to let them know, like, hey, you can do this too.
Yeah.
I say that, Lakeisha, it brought to mind the day that we did our opening, and we had, you know, all of my nephews were there, and all of them are 6 years and younger. And Lakeisha had her kids there, and there's a picture of one of her sons who's sitting at her desk, and he's pretending to be the boss, right? And he's there, and he's like giving directions, and he was doing it so naturally. And then Lakeisha and I noticed him, and it was the cutest thing. So I was like, I need to take a picture of him. So I took a picture of him. And then my nephew contacted me and said, yeah, can I come to your office? Like, he knows that's my office. Mm-hmm. And Lakeisha and I had this conversation where we're like, what a stepping stone, right? That we are going through those challenges, that we're facing that, but we've got all of these kids that are coming behind us that are not going to be afraid. They're going to be like, you know, I want to own this business, or I want to do that. And they're not going to have those insecurities that we had, because they're already seeing an example of someone who went through it. And they're like, yeah, if my aunt could do it, I could do it too. Or if mom did it, you know, if mom has her office, I can do it too. And sometimes we're working and the kids are there with us, and, you know, they see us working, they see us doing the hard stuff and all of that, and they're watching this. So it's more, I think we're doing more for our generations to come than we sometimes think about.
Yeah. You made me think of my nephew, because sometimes we're like, Auntie, how did it go at the den today? Like when he came over, because he'll come over a lot, and I have to, it just never fails. The days he comes over, I have to go to the den for something. I'm like, I'll be back, baby, I'll be right back. And I'll come back, and he's like, how was your thing at the den? And like, I don't think it ever really clicked to me until you said that right now. Like, oh, he knows his auntie has a business.
You are making an impact. Growing up, my grandfather, he had a record store in Inglewood way before I was born, but he closed it. And then, so as a young child, I always saw pictures of him standing in front of his record store. And of course, he had all the records that, you know, he brought home with him.
Yeah.
And till this day, I will look at that picture and it just has so much meaning, because I'm like, wow, back then as an African American man, like he did it, you know, he closed it because he wanted to, not because he had to at that time. And so seeing, like, hearing about your nephew and Myra's nephews and my kids, I mean, I hear stories from my kids all the time, because now mom owns a business and then dad owns a business. And so they know it's possible. Yeah. You can own a own business. Like you can, you know, work for someone or own a business. Like you have the power to decide what you want to do in life. So this leads me to my next question, which I absolutely love. Vision boards. So you had an event where you made vision boards. So tell us a little bit about that event, and why do you feel that vision boards are so important?
Well, it's the same goal, right? To build your board. And I always tell people, you don't have to put it on like a poster board. I've had a girl make it on like a shoebox, and she put she wrote things down and put like inside the box too. And I'm like, that's great too, because you're putting down like, you know, what you want to happen as well. Overall, it's like you don't have to do it at the new year. People just do because it's the new year, but it's putting out there and visualizing what you really want. So anything from, I mean, I had some like serious stuff on there, some funny stuff everybody did. Like my friend that came, she had like a new puppy because she lost her dog last year. And it's just, you know, it's what do you want to happen this year? And is all of it going to come true? Nobody can promise that, but you're putting the energy out there to at least start working towards whatever's on there. Or anything from new job to traveling more to let's eat a little more healthier, or starting a business if that's what you want to do, starting a podcast if that's what you want to do. I think the power of seeing it, like putting it up somewhere where you can see it every day. A lot of people put it either at like their work if they have like an office, or, you know, if you want to put it in your room. I've also seen people get real digital with it lately too, and like make it on like I guess Canva. You can actually do like a whole actual template for it now.
Oh, wow.
Put it on Canva, print it out, and then you can put it, like frame it. It's like an actual picture now in your house. I am not, if anybody knows me, it's not that I'm not organized. I have a very creative mind, and my organization is different. If I see something like straight lines, it bores me. So my vision boards are like crazy, but that's just how my mind works for everything in my life. I think it's the power of just putting it out there. What do you want? And what was fun about it too is like 2 girls I think came that we didn't know, like nobody knew at all. Like they just found it online and they were like, oh, I just want to build one. And I seen it was like open, just bring snacks. And I was like, yeah. And you get to know them, and it's as you're talking, like people are cutting out things from the magazines. And it's funny because people like, they come with a set of like, I want to put, you know, a house, a baby or whatever on it. But then about halfway through where they're cutting, they're like, oh, I totally forgot. I always wanted to travel to Italy. Like, let me put that on here. Like, things come to them as they're talking and looking through stuff. And they're like, oh, yeah, I need to do this too. Like, I want to do this too. So you come with the one vision. And then I feel like most people end up leaving with a couple more added to it, which is great because now you just have a big goal there.
I'm a firm believer of a vision board. I love the collages, but what we do in our family, we actually have a chalkboard in our room, and we will write out every single detail that we want. So I remember, if I can think back to even adopting our girls, what we asked for, and we got it. And we just didn't know at that time we were going to get 2. So I was like, okay, we got a 2 for 1. Mm-hmm. But I mean, even the house, and this sounds very superficial, but I had a favorite Target, so to speak, because the clearance items were amazing at this Target. And I remember putting it down that I want a house near my favorite Target, but it was about the area. And
are you sure
no lie, no lie, we bought a house near my favorite Target. And so again, it's just one of those things that, like you said, you're actually seeing it, and it's like you're visualizing, because when I put that on that board, I remember seeing myself, didn't know what the house looked like, but seeing myself in this house that was by this Target. It was just so funny because I'm not even remembering what the questions were for today, but yesterday I wrote 3 more things on our vision board, and it's just come to the point where me and my husband now, when we write stuff on our vision board, we automatically know it's going to happen. We just don't know when. Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, okay, well, there, it's on our board now. Now we can move on and just wait and see when we're going to get it.
I love this idea of vision boards. And one of the things that I talked a lot to my sisters, I remember when I was doing my master's program, there was one particular professor who really focused on like marriage and partnerships. And he said, if you want a long-term relationship, marriage particularly, or just a long-term relationship with someone that you love, he says it's so important to once a year go out away from the home and talk about your vision. You evaluate your relationship. And I think it's very similar to what you're talking about, because we can do a vision board about life, about marriage, about career, about ourselves as an individual, right? But I remember him saying, like, go out and do an assessment. Like, what are the things that I've learned from that have been challenges, and what are the things that we want to reach together? And one of the beautiful things that happens is that you start to realize that as you mature, as you change, as you go through life stuff like hardships and things like that, sometimes your vision changes. And other times you get to sit back and, like Lakeisha's doing, and viewing all of the things that you were able to accomplish from this vision. And I've been telling my sisters, do this with your marriage. Like, go out and have these visions. It opens up conversations that you didn't even realize you could have. And my husband and I are coming on 10 years of marriage in June. Yay. So I know. So we had our like vision conversation, and we started talking about like, what were these first 10 years of marriage? You know, it was a very young, immature marriage. We made a lot of mistakes, but what is the vision for these next 10 years, right? And we started visualizing where we want our life to go, what this is going to look like for us. And one of the things that it did is that it makes you say, I can't fulfill this vision without this person, right? Because if this vision is joint, then for the next 10 years, you and I, like, we're a partnership, like we're tied together here because these are joint visions. And so I just love this idea, Mandy, that you did. And Lakeisha, like, we're like, we have to talk about this, because I think sometimes we take it lightly that we can sit back and take a moment. Life just doesn't have to happen however it happens. You can work hard and say, hey, maybe this was my upbringing. Maybe this is all my family's ever been able to accomplish, but what do I want for me? And what does it take to reach that? And it allows you to get to another height. So visions are just so incredible in any aspect of your life. But thank you for bringing that up, because that stirred up conversations with Lakeisha and I too. We're like, oh my gosh, vision boards, they're so important. They are. It gives you the opportunity to dream outside of where you are. And then it gives you the opportunity to say, hey, this is a possibility for me.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Ooh, okay, this is not on the questions, but this made me think, like when you mentioned your experience in college and you were engaged and then things kind of changed a little bit, and then hearing about Myra doing these vision boards with her husband, this would be such an amazing tool. Like if you're dating someone for so long and it seems like it's becoming a little bit more serious, just to sit together and do a vision board, because maybe you all may not have the same vision or goals for the future. And I feel like a lot of times, especially today, I think, well, let's go back. When I was dating, you may not sit and ask certain questions. Like that just happens as life goes on. But today, I just think about today's youth, and they may not ask a lot of these questions that might be important, where if they do end up with somebody, who knows, like it might not match at all.
Mm-hmm. And what's funny is I seen it, I forgot what the name of the doctor was. It was like a psychology doctor or something. And they broke it down even smaller. Like, I love the idea of you and your husband, like once a year doing this, let's sit down, let's talk about our vision. They broke it down to once a month have, it's called like what did the doctor call? I can't exactly remember the words and I don't want to say the wrong thing, but it was like go on a date night overall. But at that date night, instead of talking just about like, your general, whatever you talk about on your date night, you go with like 3 questions. And one was, what is like something hard that I had to learn? What is something I want to focus on? And then it's the same thing, but then about your relationship. Like what was something, maybe it could be something as simple as, what did you do to annoy me? Or what is something I want you and I to do? It's like a breakdown of like how that relationship, I think they call it like a relationship meeting, but it's overall like a date night. But once a month, just to see like, what if your partner is like, you guys were building this whole business for a couple months. Like it wasn't just like a week turnaround. And I'm sure there's stressful times during that month or during those months. And it's just like, okay, well, ask them, like, how are they feeling about the project they're working on? And just stuff like that. And I do think like, it's an amazing thing. And it's the same concept of what is your goal for what you're working on right now, honey? Or, things like that. Yeah. But definitely, I think today's generation is more of that instant, satisfaction of what are we now? And not really getting any deeper into that. So,
I think Keisha and I need to sit down and just do a vision board ourselves for, what this agency represents. Because I think we talk a lot and we dream a lot about what we want. We have, the next phases that we've already thought of. Like this is another phase that's going to be once this part of the program, goes up and running and things like that. And so it brings so much connectivity. And whether you do this with friends or you do this by yourself, you connect with yourself. You can connect with friends. You can connect with partners in a partnership with, we're talking about professional. You can also connect with your spouse or your partner, right? And like, where are we seeing ourselves going? Because it drives you. I think otherwise life gets really stagnant and very just day-to-day consistent. And so you need something to motivate you and to drive you to what's next.
I think we should have a FemPower SNL vision board workshop.
Do it.
Yes, we're for it.
I'm announcing it on air, so now you have to do it.
Yes, we're putting it
on everybody.
And because what's funny is I have like the stack of magazines from the one I had. I'm like, I should just save them and then we can do one. I can bring them over. We can do like a workshop or something. That'll be fun.
That would be amazing.
With our youth, we want to do that. So that would be wonderful to invite them over and merge that together. So we'll talk off screen about that.
What advice would you leave for any youth, especially like our young girls or even our young adults that we see? What would you give them? What piece of advice would you leave for them?
I mean, my biggest thing, like I said earlier, is it's never too late. I know since we're talking to youngers, you guys are youngers already. So the other thing I would say is trust the process with your vision. Entrepreneurship's not easy. It's not you're going to be upset. Things are going to happen that are out of your control, especially when it comes to, if you're dealing with getting some sort of government licensing, anything like that. They shut down my bank account one day and just closed it. Banks can do that. They didn't know. They can just close your bank account if they want to and don't have to tell you anything. Just trust the process, though. Like, if you have a vision and you know that's your passion, you know that's something you're supposed to be doing, just trust the process. Keep following, keep pushing, finding the advice you can. There is amazing people out there like us that will help you. Don't be afraid to ask questions. That's the other one, too. Definitely, if you see somebody that's in your field or just want to know a general business question, we're out there for you, and I'm sure SNL has connections if you need to ask them. You can find me at FemPower Den. I can point you in the right direction too if I don't know the answer for you, but I'd say trust the process and ask questions when you can so that you don't feel lost, because we've all been there, and I'm sure there's plenty of us that are happy out there to help you.
Perfect. And we'll link all your information too, as far as how they can contact you as well.
Thank you so much, Mandy. Thank you so much for bringing all of your wisdom, and we love your personality. Lakeisha and I talk about you all of the time. The moment we met, we just connected with you. By the way, on screen here for everybody to hear, we want to personally thank FemPower for everything they've done for SNL. All of the gifts that you guys donated during Christmas time went to some of our kiddos from some of the young moms that are in care. Because they're not considered to be in foster care, their babies, it's really hard to provide things for them. But FemPower was able to provide gifts for all of the littles, and we're just so grateful for you and everything you do. So thank you so much on behalf of FemPower.
That makes me happy. Thanks, guys. I'm glad we found each other through your husband's.
Yeah.
It's totally how we found each other. We're so happy that happened.
Yeah, so we're thankful too.
We're thankful to the cinnamon rolls because they brought us a lot of amazing connections.
Yes.
Love it.
Well, thank you so much, everybody, for joining us for another wonderful episode of Ministering Over Fostering. We can't wait to show you the next one. Bye.
Bye.